Kamau Ndlovu was locking up the small IT repair room where he worked when his phone buzzed. The family group chat, usually dead quiet for months, suddenly lit up with a message from his father, Sibusiso. Kamau, we need you to join us for an important family dinner tonight. Eden Blue. 7 p.m. Just one sentence, stiff and cold like always. Still, Kamau froze for a moment. Eden Blue? The most expensive restaurant in Durban? His family never invited him anywhere, not even for a birthday call. They barely called him family at all. Growing up with his grandmother had made him the outsider, the forgotten one, the one who didn't fit their perfect image. After she passed, he learned to live on his own, quietly, humbly, working long hours fixing computers, saving every cent, minding his business. Meanwhile, his father, stepmother Naledi, and his stylish siblings Quinili and Ayanda lived their glossy, wealthy life without him. So why tonight? Kamau read the message again. Something felt strange, too sudden, too formal. His stomach tightened with a feeling he couldn't name. Suspicion? Hope? Fear? Maybe a mix of everything. But a soft part of him, the part that still remembered being a boy wanting his father's approval, whispered, maybe they finally want to reconnect. He stared at the screen for a long time before typing, I'll be there. As he walked to catch a taxi home, so he could change into his best clothes, he kept telling himself not to expect too much. But deep down, a quiet flicker of hope glowed, small, fragile, and dangerous. Kamau stepped out of the taxi and stood in front of Eden Blue, feeling small next to the tall glass doors and glowing lights. The place looked like a five-star hotel lobby, soft jazz playing, sparkling chandeliers, and guests stepping out of luxury cars dressed like celebrities. He swallowed hard and brushed the front of his neatly ironed shirt. It wasn't expensive, but it was clean, and it was the best he had. He walked inside, trying to look confident. The smell of grilled seafood and warm bread floated through the air. A waiter greeted him politely at first, but the moment Kamau mentioned the Ndlovu reservation, the man's eyebrows lifted slightly, just enough to make Kamau feel like he didn't belong. Still, he stayed calm, choosing a seat near the window while he waited. 7 minutes later, the grand entrance arrived. A shiny black Lexus SUV stopped right outside, its headlights flashing like it was announcing royalty. The doors opened dramatically. First his father Sibusiso in a tailored suit, then Naledi in a sparkling dress that probably cost more than Kamau's monthly salary. And of course, Quinili and Ayanda stepped out last, taking their time, acting like paparazzi were waiting for them. Their voices filled the room even before they walked through the door. Loud laughs, designer perfume, phones in hand. They didn't even look around. They expected everyone else to look at them. And people did. When they finally reached the table, their eyes crawled over Kamau from head to toe. Ayanda made a face, like she had stepped into something unpleasant. Quinili whispered something into her ear, and they both snickered. Naledi didn't bother hiding her disappointment, her eyes narrowing at his simple clothes. But his father's reaction stung the most, a slow shake of the head, like he was embarrassed to be seen with him. The waiters, who had already noticed how the family behaved, shifted their tone too. They greeted the others with bright smiles and extra warmth. But when they turned to Kamau, their voices dropped to the flat, polite tone used for people who weren't worth their time. Kamau tried to keep his posture straight, but the weight of their judgment pressed on him. Still, he smiled softly and said, "Hi, everyone." Quinili didn't even bother returning the greeting. He just smirked and said under his breath, "Yo, at least he tried." Then Naledi leaned back in her chair, her voice cutting through the table like a blade. "Kamau, at least try not to embarrass us tonight." The words weren't loud, but they were sharp enough that the table next to them heard. A couple looked over briefly, then looked away, pretending not to notice. Kamau felt his chest tighten. The dinner hadn't even started yet, and already he felt like he had walked into a trap. He forced himself to breathe slowly, reminding himself why he came. Maybe things would get better. Maybe there was a reason they invited him. But as he sat surrounded by their whispers and smirks, he already knew. This night wasn't going to be the reunion he hoped for. The menus at Eden Blue looked more like glossy magazines than menus. Everything sparkled. Pictures, prices, descriptions. Kamau held it carefully, afraid even touching it might leave fingerprint. Across the table, his family flipped pages confidently, like they came here every week. Maybe they did. Ayanda snapped her fingers at the waiter, not even looking up. "I'll have the grilled lobster, the big one, and the imported Chardonnay." Quinili followed right after. "Wagyu steak, rare, and bring me that South African red wine, the expensive one." Naledi didn't even bother reading the menu. "Just bring the chef's special platter. And keep the wine flowing." Sibusiso closed his menu dramatically, then handed it back with a smirk. "Make it 2 specials, and make sure it's the freshest. We don't eat low-quality food." The waiter nodded quickly, writing fast, almost bowing. When he turned to Kamau, the brightness in his eyes faded, replaced by a tight, polite smile. "And for you, sir?" Kamau hated moments like this. He didn't want to look cheap, but he also knew he couldn't order something that would empty half his salary, so he cleared his throat softly. "Oh, I'll just have the grilled chicken and rice. And water, please." The waiter blinked, surprised, maybe even disappointed, but he nodded and walked off. Ayanda leaned back, raising a brow. "Chicken. Here." "Yo, shame." Cornelie laughed under his breath. He's still living that budget life. Kamau pretended not to hear. He focused on the candle in the center of the table, its flame shaking every time someone spoke. He felt like that flame, trying hard to stay steady in a room full of wind. A few minutes later, the waiter came back. He smiled awkwardly before speaking. "Ah, sir, your order is actually covered by the family, so no need to worry about." Before he could finish, Sibusiso slammed his palm lightly on the table. Not hard enough to make a scene, just loud enough. "No," he said it clearly, firmly, his voice echoing just enough to catch attention. "He pays for himself." The waiter froze. Kamau froze. The whole table froze. But Sibusiso wasn't done. "He isn't one of us. Don't add his order to our bill." The words hit like a slap, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Loud enough that a family at the next table turned, staring at Kamau like he'd committed a crime. Even a couple by the window paused mid-bite. Kamau felt heat rush from his neck to his cheeks. His ears went hot. His hands tightened under the table. It felt like the room was shrinking around him, but he kept his eyes down and breathed slowly. He refused to let them see him break. The waiter looked torn, embarrassed for him, unsure how to respond. "Of course, sir," he finally said quietly, stepping back. Ayanda hid a smile behind her wine glass. Cornelie leaned back, proud of the chaos. Kamau swallowed the lump in his throat. He could feel humiliation crawling up his spine, squeezing his heart. But he forced himself to lift his head, meeting his father's eyes for the first time that evening. "Okay," he said softly. "I'll pay for myself." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight back. He didn't give them what they wanted. But inside, something in him shifted, quietly, dangerously. The food arrived like a parade. Giant lobster tails steaming on silver platters, thick Wagyu steaks that looked more like sculptures than meals, fancy sauces drizzled in shapes Kamau didn't even recognize. His family dug in loudly, laughing, taking pictures, posting on social media with captions like, "Family Night Out Sparkles," even though they had spent the whole evening ignoring or mocking him. Kamau ate slowly, quietly, focusing on his simple plate of grilled chicken. It tasted good, but he couldn't enjoy it. Every laugh from his siblings felt like it had something hidden behind it. Every look from Naledi carried silent judgment. Every sigh from his father felt like disappointment that Kamau even existed. Still, he stayed calm. The night would end soon, he told himself. Just make it through. But humiliation has stages, and they weren't finished yet. After plates were cleared, a waiter approached carefully with a long, folded bill. Even he looked nervous, as if he sensed the tension at the table. He placed the bill in front of Sibusiso with a subtle bow. Sibusiso didn't even look at it. He slid it to the middle of the table. Then, with a slow smile, he pushed it all the way across the table toward Kamau. The paper stopped right in front of him. Kamau blinked. "What is this?" His father sat back, folding his arms. "Since you're always acting like you're better than us, pay." Ayanda burst into laughter first. Loud, sharp, careless. Cornelie followed, slapping the table like it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. Kamau didn't laugh. His heart dropped into his stomach as he looked at the total. 500. Almost 10,000 rand. For food he didn't order, didn't touch, didn't even want. The room felt suddenly colder. Conversations in nearby tables lowered. A couple of people glanced over, sensing drama. Cornelie leaned in with a smirk. "What's wrong, Kamau? Big man, right? Pay." When he didn't move immediately, Ayanda tilted her head, pretending to feel sorry. But her voice was loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "He came here in a taxi. How will he even pay this?" A few heads turned. Someone whispered. Someone else stared openly. The humiliation burned through Kamau's chest like fire. His ears buzzed. His throat felt tight. His face felt hot. He placed the bill down slowly, his fingers trembling just a little. "So this is why you invited me," he said quietly. "Not to talk. Not to reconnect. Just this." His father shrugged, completely unbothered. "You need to learn your place." Naledi added with a sweet but poisonous smile. "Consider it a lesson. A lesson. A trap. A staged humiliation in public." Kamau felt something inside him crack. Not loudly, not angrily, but like a door slowly closing. He looked around the table, seeing them clearly for the first time. Not family. Not support. Not love. Just people who enjoyed breaking him. Kamau pushed his chair back gently, standing up. For a moment, no one moved. His family waited for him to beg, to panic, to argue. But he didn't. Instead, he gave them a calm, steady look, one that made Ayanda's smile falter. He finally understood everything. They never wanted him there. They only wanted to watch him fall. Kamau stood up so quietly that for a second, none of them reacted. His chair didn't scrape, his voice didn't rise, his hands didn't shake. He just straightened his back, inhaled deeply, and let out a slow breath. The calmness in his face confused them. This wasn't the reaction they were expecting. They wanted him to panic, to beg, to fumble for money he didn't have. They wanted a scene, something to laugh about later, something to use as proof that he didn't belong in their world. But Kamau didn't give them even a single word. He simply placed the folded bill back on the table and looked at them one last time. His father smirked, so sure he had won. Ayanda leaned into Quinili, whispering something that made both of them giggle behind their hands. Naledi just watched him with that same cold smile she had worn all night. Kamau didn't react to any of it. He turned, walked around the table, and headed toward the door. Every step felt heavy but freeing, like chains falling off one by one. Behind him, he heard Ayanda's voice ring out. "Oh look, he's running away." Then laughter. Loud, messy, heartless laughter. Quinili added, "Taxi boy is gone." More laughter. Sibusiso didn't laugh out loud, but Kamau could feel the satisfaction rolling off him, like he believed he had taught Kamau a lesson. Kamau didn't stop, didn't turn, didn't let their voices touch him. He just kept walking until the warm lights of Eden blue faded behind him and the cool night air hit his face. He stepped outside, breathing deeper now, letting the night calm his burning chest. The city sounds blended around him, cars passing, waves in the distance, soft chatter from other guests. For the first time that evening, he felt like he could breathe properly. He was about to walk toward the road when he heard quick footsteps behind him. "Sir." "Excuse me, sir." Kamau turned and saw the restaurant manager hurrying toward him. The man looked uncomfortable, almost embarrassed. "I'm so sorry," he said immediately, "about what happened inside, the way your family treated you, and the way the staff reacted. That shouldn't have happened. We try to maintain dignity for every guest." Kamau studied him for a moment. The man's face was sincere, his tone respectful. Unlike his family, this apology felt real. "It's okay," Kamau said softly. "It wasn't your fault." "No," the manager insisted. "Still, I want to apologize personally. You didn't deserve that kind of embarrassment." Kamau nodded, appreciating the honesty. Then something shifted in his expression, something quiet but powerful. His shoulders relaxed, and he looked directly into the manager's eyes. "Thank you," he said. "And don't worry." He paused just long enough to change the tone of the night. "Tomorrow morning, I'll be back with someone." The manager blinked in surprise. "Someone? Who? Why?" His confusion showed clearly, but Kamau didn't explain. He simply offered a small, calm smile and turned away. As he walked down the pavement, the night breeze brushing against him, Kamau felt a spark inside, small but strong. The humiliation had ended. Now the story was about to change. Walking away from Eden Blue, Kamau's steps were steady, but inside his mind, memories began unfolding like scenes from a movie, slow, sharp, and full of emotions he had kept hidden for years. People always assumed he was just an IT technician, someone who fixed laptops for a living, someone who took taxis because he couldn't afford a car, someone who lived quietly because he had no other choice. Even his own family believed that story. They never asked for more, never cared to look deeper. But Kamau had another life, one he had built silently, one they knew nothing about. About 2 years earlier, he had reconnected with his university friend, Dr. Lumumba Wazi, one of the brightest tech minds in South Africa. Lumumba was already well known for his innovations, often appearing in tech magazines and interviews. When he pitched Kamau an idea for a new app, something simple, powerful, and with huge potential, Kamau didn't hesitate. They spent nights coding in a tiny Cape Town office, eating cheap takeaways, drinking too much coffee, and dreaming big dreams. Kamau would work full shifts repairing computers in Durban, then take night buses to Cape Town for development meetings. He slept on couches, skipped outings, and saved every spare rand. Nobody knew, especially not his family. If he had told them, they would have laughed. Ayanda would have rolled her eyes. Quinili would have made a joke about the IT repair boy trying to be Elon Musk. His father would have said he was wasting his time. So Kamau worked in silence. And then it happened. Everything changed at once. Their app went live. It grew fast. Too fast. Within months, it reached thousands of users. Then tens of thousands. Companies started calling. Investors wanted meetings. Until finally, one morning, Kamau received a message from Lumumba. "We need to talk." We got the offer. A UK tech investor wanted to buy their app. Not for thousands. Not for hundreds of thousands. For millions. Kamau remembered sitting in that small Cape Town office when they signed the deal. Lumumba smiled proudly and said, "You earned this, my brother. You built the backbone of this company." Kamau struggled to even speak. His hands shook as he held the pen. With that deal, Kamau became financially secure overnight. A millionaire, quietly. A man who could afford anything he wanted, but still lived simply. He bought nothing flashy. No fancy car. No designer clothes. No new attitude. He kept repairing computers because he loved it. He stayed humble because that's who he was. And he never told his family a single thing. Not because he wanted to hide it, but because he knew exactly how they'd react. They would only see his success as something to use, not something to celebrate. They would try to control him, take credit, or find a way to make him feel small again. So he stayed silent. But tonight, after the humiliation, the bill, the laughter, the cruelty, something inside him shifted. He finally felt ready to show them the truth. Not to brag, not to boast, but because they needed to understand one thing. The quiet one they mocked, minimized, and pushed aside was no longer the weak one in the family. He was the one who would write the next chapter, on his own terms. The next morning, Durban was bright, warm, and full of weekend noise, cars, ocean wind, street vendors calling out. But Kamau walked through it all with a calm confidence he hadn't felt in years. The humiliation from the night before didn't haunt him anymore. It fueled him. At exactly 10 a.m., a sleek black electric car pulled up outside his apartment. The door opened, and out stepped Dr. Lumumba Wazi. Sharp suit, calm smile, and the kind of presence that made people turn their heads. Lumumba didn't just walk into a room. He shifted its energy. "My brother," Lumumba said, pulling Kamau into a hug. "Ready?" Kamau nodded. More than ready. They arrived at Eden Blue moments later. As soon as the doorman saw Lumumba, his eyes widened. He straightened his jacket, greeting them with both hands. "Dr. Wazi, welcome, welcome. It's an honor to have you back." Lumumba smiled politely. "Thank you. We're here to meet someone." Inside, the manager practically rushed toward them. The same man who apologized nervously the previous night now looked like he was standing before royalty. "Good morning. Please, right this way," he said, almost bowing. "We've prepared your preferred seating." Kamau exchanged a look with Lumumba. The difference in treatment was impossible to miss. "Actually," Kamau said calmly, "I need to settle a bill from last night." The manager blinked. "Oh, of course. Give me a moment." He returned with the receipt, R9,500 printed neatly at the bottom. Kamau didn't even flinch. He simply reached into his pocket, pulled out his black metal card, the kind only top-tier clients receive, and placed it on the tray. The manager's eyebrows shot up. "Right away, sir. Transaction approved in seconds. No hesitation. No embarrassment. No struggle." The same bill his family used to humiliate him was now nothing more than a piece of paper. When the manager handed back his card, Kamau spoke again, his tone steady. "I also need a private dining room. Something quiet." "Of course. We'll open the Sapphire Room for you. It's usually reserved for VIPs." They were escorted into a beautifully decorated room with glass walls, silver accents, and a large table set for several guests. Soft music played in the background. The lighting was calm and warm. Lumumba sat, crossing his legs. "So this is where you plan to talk to them?" Kamau nodded. "They chose to embarrass me in public. I'll choose to face them in private." He pulled out his phone, took one steady breath, and dialed the family group chat. Sibusiso answered first, sounding annoyed. "What is it now?" Kamau didn't raise his voice. "You wanted to see me pay, right? Come to Eden Blue. Sapphire Room." Silence. Then Ayanda's voice in the background. "He went back there? To pay what, a coffee?" Quinili snorted. "Maybe he's begging them for a discount." Kamau didn't respond to the insults. He simply said, "Come now," and ended the call. Lumumba looked at him with quiet pride. "You're handling this with grace." Kamau exhaled slowly. "Today they'll see the truth. Not because I need them to, but because they need to know the person they tried to break." He leaned back in his chair, the calmest he had ever felt. For the first time in his life, Kamau was not walking into their world. They were walking into his. It didn't take long before Kamau heard footsteps approaching the Sapphire Room. Whispering, confused voices. A familiar, irritated tone. His family had arrived. Kamau didn't move from his seat. Lumumba sat beside him, calm, watching everything quietly. The door opened. Ayanda stepped in first, expecting to see Kamau standing in a corner, embarrassed and waiting for them like a child. But instead, she froze. Her eyes widened at the private room, the expensive table setting, the soft lighting. Then her gaze landed on the restaurant manager, standing respectfully behind Kamau, like he was the VIP of the day. Cornelia walked in behind her and stopped mid-step. What is this? Naledi entered next, her mouth tightening, clearly thrown off balance. And finally, Sibusiso stepped inside looking suspicious, like he had walked into a trap. Kamau didn't stand. He didn't rush. He didn't smile. He simply looked at them and said, "Sit." The simplicity of the word, the confidence in his tone, it shocked them. They sat without arguing, like they suddenly forgot how to speak. The manager offered drinks, speaking directly to Kamau. "Would you like your usual imported tea, sir?" "Just water," Kamau replied. Ayanda whispered, "Usual? Since when does he have a usual here?" Cornelia leaned in. "Are you working here now? Did they promote you from cleaner to VIP cleaner?" Their jokes bounced off Kamau like dust. He finally leaned forward, folding his hands. "Last night, you humiliated me in front of strangers. You insulted me, mocked me, embarrassed me, and enjoyed it." Ayanda rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, don't be dramatic." Kamau continued as if she hadn't spoken. "You treated me like trash because I came here in a taxi. Because I don't dress like you. Because I don't pretend to be rich." Naledi narrowed her eyes. "What is your point?" "My point is," Kamau said softly, "you didn't invite me for dinner. You invited me for a show. You wanted to break me in public." Sibusiso finally spoke, irritation in his voice. "That's enough." "No," Kamau cut in firmly. "For the first time in my life, I'll say what I've been silent about." The room went still. "You insulted me. You belittled me. You laughed at me for years. But while you were busy mocking me," he paused long enough that Ayanda stopped breathing for a moment. "I was building something." Their faces changed instantly, from annoyance to confusion, then to nervous surprise. Lumumba finally leaned forward, offering a polite smile. "Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm Dr. Lumumba Wazi, founder of Wazi Tech." Ayanda gasped. She recognized the name. Cornelia's mouth fell open. "Wait, that Wazi Tech?" Lumumba nodded gently. "Yes. And your brother here is my co-founder." Silence. Kamau spoke again. "We sold our app to a UK investor 2 months ago. I didn't tell you because, well, you never cared enough to ask." Naledi whispered, "Millions? You're saying you have millions." "I'm saying," Kamau corrected, "I built my own life. Without your help. Without your approval." Sibusiso swallowed hard, suddenly looking smaller. "Kamau, we didn't know. If we had known." Kamau held up a hand, stopping him instantly. "Respect," he said quietly, "is not demanded by age. It's earned by character." The room fell completely silent. Not a single comeback. Not a single laugh. Not a single excuse. For the first time ever, his family looked at him, truly looked at him, and realized something they never expected. The sun they pushed aside had risen far above them. Kamau looked at each of them slowly, almost gently, as if he was seeing them for the last time. His voice stayed calm, steady, almost too calm for the weight of his words. He told them he wanted no more drama, no more shouting, no more pretending. Then he said the one sentence that made every chair suddenly go still. "Family doesn't break you in public. Family protects you, even in private. And you've shown me what I mean to you." For a moment, nobody moved. Even the sound of plates from the kitchen suddenly felt far away. His mother's mouth opened slightly, as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Sibusiso looked angry and embarrassed at the same time, shifting in his seat like he couldn't decide if he should defend himself or stay quiet. Ayanda stared at Kamau like she didn't recognize him anymore. Kamau didn't wait for their replies. He wasn't there to argue. He was there to finish something. He stood up with slow confidence, the kind of confidence they had never seen in him. He placed his card on the table again, even though he had already paid for the private room and their fresh drinks. He didn't need to prove anything, but he wanted this moment to be clean, final, unforgettable. He paid for his own meal one more time, as if drawing a line none of them could cross again. His family watched silently, their earlier arrogance gone. Their laughter was gone. The jokes were gone. The insults were gone. Now there was only a cold realization settling into their bones. They had pushed him too far, and he wasn't coming back this time. When Kamau headed toward the exit, Sibusiso finally snapped out of his shock and jumped up. "Kamau, wait! Don't walk away like this," he shouted, his voice shaking with the first real fear he had ever shown toward his younger brother. Ayanda and their mother hurried behind him, calling his name, acting as if they suddenly cared. The same people who mocked him last night now looked desperate. But Kamau didn't turn back. He didn't even pause. Before they could reach him, the restaurant security, 2 tall men in black, stepped in front of the family and lifted their hands politely but firmly. "Sorry, sir," one of them said to Sibusiso. "Mr. Kamau asked for privacy. You cannot follow him." The irony hit them hard. Just 24 hours ago, they had laughed in this same restaurant while Kamau walked out alone. Now they were the ones being held back, the ones being embarrassed in public, the ones being left behind. Everyone in the dining area watched the scene, whispering. Kamau walked through the glass doors and into the morning air without looking back even once. His steps were light, peaceful, almost relieved. He felt no guilt, only freedom. The moment the doors closed behind him, he knew something had changed forever. He wasn't the weak one. He wasn't the outsider. He wasn't the one begging for respect. His family had lost him, not because of money, but because they broke something that couldn't be bought back, his trust. And as they stood inside the restaurant, blocked by security, watching him disappear into the bright Cape Town morning, regret slowly settled in their hearts. They finally understood. They hadn't just lost an argument. They had lost their son, their brother, their last chance. And the place where they tried to shame him became the place where he walked away from them for good. Weeks after that unforgettable day at Eden Blue, Kamau moved into a modern apartment overlooking Durban's beachfront. The view was breathtaking, waves crashing softly against the shore, the sun rising in golden streaks across the horizon, and the city buzzing quietly below. For the first time in his life, Kamau felt completely at peace. This was his life now, built with his own hands, on his own terms. He didn't stop there. Remembering the struggles he faced growing up without his family's support, Kamau started a scholarship program for students raised by single grandparents. He wanted to give them opportunities he had fought so hard to create for himself: education, mentorship, and a chance to believe that circumstances didn't define their future. Then something unexpected happened. A video from that night at Eden Blue, captured by a witness, went viral. People across South Africa shared it. The calm young man who had been humiliated in public, walking out with dignity, returning the next day to claim his worth, and quietly showing the world he had succeeded on his own. Comments poured in, praise for his intelligence, humility, and the way he handled cruelty with calm and class. Kamau didn't seek attention, but he didn't hide from it either. He let the story inspire others quietly. People admired his revenge, not as vengeance, but as the strength to rise above humiliation. As he sat on his balcony one evening, watching the sun dip into the ocean, Kamau whispered to himself, almost like a promise: never underestimate the quiet one in the family. Their storms build them, their silence sharpens them. And in that moment, he knew he had finally claimed not just success, but freedom, peace, and respect for himself and for everyone.